Next time you're in Goodwill, head on over to their houseware section and find you a big old fat candle. And what a bonus, this one was already sitting on a little candle holder and all for $3.99. There were a couple yucky spots going on, but that's okay. We're gonna fix this sucker up like new. Something I did think was cool is the little tag said Yankee Candle. The little glass candle holder wasn't that dirty, so I just grabbed a baby wipe and gave it a little scrub down. I'm gonna paint over this piece with my Folk Art metallic antique gold paints and some of this Waverly chalk paint. And if you go to paint your glass pieces, make sure the paint that you're using works well with the surface that you're trying to apply it to. This paint, I know, is going to hold really well once it's dry, and I'm not going to have to put too many coats on it. To get rid of the yuckiness on the top of here, I'm taking a heat gun and I'm taking a paper towel and just wiping it off. So if you heat up the surface, it's going to make it liquid, and you will have a couple seconds for you to be able to just swipey swipe, swipe, swipe the yuckiness with the wax right off the top and smooth it out. I like to nip the tip whenever the candle tops are burned. It just looks better. Sometimes if there's some little sections I can't really get out, using the little wipe and heat method, I'll grab a clay tool and scrape it out and then kind of even the surface around as much as I can, and then go back over one more time with the heat gun, just kind of letting that wax level itself out. Now I want to make our upcycled candle really fancy schmancy, so picking out a napkin is always a chore for me, but lucky for me, after about 5 minutes, I found the perfect little gem. There are several different ways that you can do this. I'm just going to share how I do it. First, I'm just trimming down the napkin to size, and I am leaving a little bit of an overhang. I'm removing the back sneaky layers because we're just going to need that top decorative layer. And then before I get started, I just kind of like to measure out the napkin. I like to make sure I got a little bit of overhang on everything, so in case there's any mess ups, we can fix it. Once you are completely happy with how you have this trimmed out and you're ready, bring on in the parchment paper. So there are a couple ways you can attach a napkin onto a candle, and one is just to melt the napkin onto the candle, and that's what we're going to do today. This way, if you want to reuse the candle, or if you plan on selling the candle, it's okay to burn it with just a napkin on there. If you have the medium with the Mod Podge, I would recommend just using that sucker for decorative use. I know some people like to tape down their parchment paper. I like to do the roll and rub method. That's what I like to call this. I heat up the napkin until I see that it is changing colors. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if you see here, you can notice that there is an absolute clearness going on the left side of this napkin, and then there is the white side, okay? When it's clear, that means that that wax is coming up through those pores and it is creating an adhesion as you are melting this napkin on here. You want to have that in this. If you notice that it is still that real deep white color, you just keep on going, okay? And you take your time. And then once you notice that it is clear, it does have some give in it. So don't be worried that you're going to mess your napkin up too much. You can then grab your parchment paper and then just rub over it just like this, and then move on, pulling that napkin tighter as you continue to attach the piece. And people, it should go without saying, it's hot. So be careful with what you're touching and how you're using the heat gun so you don't hurt yourself. It's not every day that you find unique looking little gems like this at Goodwill, so you know I had to grab it. even though it's kind of filthy. I know, listen, some soap and water, it'd be good as new. I also found this beautiful piece there and grabbed that as well. I thought both of these would make a really unique looking cohesive collection set. Now, I wasn't too happy with the price I paid per piece, but I did think it was cool that this was originally priced at $15 wherever it was at before it got to Goodwill. I was about to paint it and then I'm like, you know what? Let's leave them. Instead, I decided to leave these suckers au naturel and just give them a really nice scrub down with some dish soap. I dried them off and then I went and grabbed some little pieces of floral foam I had cut up laying around in my craft stash, and I didn't really glue them in case I wanted to switch them out. Now, I had these florals in my stash I picked up from the at-home store. They were really inexpensive at $2.99 for the bundle. I'm using them to create that cohesive collection feel. Helps to have something that is similar to kind of connect the different pieces that you're using whenever you're creating something like this in a space. And I wanted to share how florals are just another way for you to be able to do that. Now, while I was at Goodwill, I also happened to see these wicker baskets. I picked them up too. I didn't necessarily plan on using them for this, but I wanted to share that you don't have to use necessarily the same type of material to be able to get that cohesive collection feel, as long as you're using one item to tie in all the pieces, or one color to tie in all the pieces. Look how beautiful this turned out. That soap and water really went a long way. I found these really unique metal trays that had these designs on them at Goodwill. I picked up a couple of them, but I'm only going to use one for this project. They were $2.99 each, and as much as I love the design on there, let's say goodbye to it. Moving on, we're going to use this little wood cup I had in my stash I picked up quite some time ago from another thrifting adventure, and grab some of my DIY paint in the letterpress gray color, and grab a pouncer, do a little tappity tap 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 all over both pieces. This color is so cool because it gives like a stone effect. Once it was dry, I picked out a small stencil so we could create a raised 3D effect right on the center of this riser. And I made sure to do this prior to attaching the cup on the bottom as our base. For the texture mixture, I just used some calcium carbonate, baking soda, and a little bit of glue, mixed it together with some love, and I usually get a really amazing paste to be able to create these really cool 3D looks. I love how these turn out using some stencils. Unfortunately, I was out of my favorite Gorilla Glue gel, and I always got some E6000 laying around because I don't use it that often. Not a huge fan of the smell of stuff, but I know it works. So that's what I use to attach these two pieces together. Absolutely love how this turned out. I will say, this is not practical to put heavy things around the edges. It's more decorative. So if you're going to recreate a piece like this and use the type of centered base for your stand, keep that in mind. I absolutely love the shape of this mirror that I found at Goodwill. And bonus, it was only $3.99. So I popped it in the cart, got it back to our little craft station, and wanted to remove the mirror so I could turn this into a jewelry hanger for my daughter. I noticed that the mirror was already loose. You know what I'm saying? You know when you can tell like something's a little loose? So I tried to finagle it, you know, just a little bit. And unfortunately, broke another one. Broke another one. It's 14 years. It's the second mirror I broke in like the last couple months. It's okay. I didn't want that stupid mirror anyway. I mean, I kind of did. I wanted to put it in my stash, but I mean, my craft stash is bad enough anyhow. I removed the rest of the mirror. I used a heat gun, I shimmied a little Cricut tool up in there, and it popped right on out. I want to decoupage the front of this frame, and we're going to need to create a base color. If you have white paint that is like a chalk paint, it's a good coverage, just use that. I didn't have that, so I mixed these two colors to do one nice base coat, and then I went entirely over it with the multi-surface. I didn't use the multi-surface on its own because just using that, while it's an amazing paint, to get it to cover up something, it usually takes me like 3 or 4 coats, depending on how bright that paint is I'm trying to cover up. I'm gonna blend these two colors together to get me a nice little pink and use that to go around the edges to cover up that gold. Once this dried, it wasn't as bright as I wanted it, so I just took the acrylic paint on its own and did 2 more coats over the edges. I'm gonna use some good old Mod Podge to pour all over the section of this frame that I painted white. I'm doing that because I'm gonna end up using the iron-on method to apply our decoupage, and this gives a really nice hold, but it takes a couple hours to dry. For the decoupage portion, I'm going to be using some TDS decoupage tissue paper. Now, I made sure to cut this down to size so it just fit over the section that we needed it to. And then it was time to bring on in the iron. Make sure your Mod Podge is completely dry before carrying through with this project. I like to turn my little mini iron all the way up, and no, you do not have to use this exact iron. You can use whatever iron works best for you. Here you're going to notice I have a piece of parchment paper, and you should. Whenever you go to do an iron-on method, grabbing parchment paper, it's always a good idea, okay? But behind the scenes, what you don't know is that I've been using this parchment paper for quite some time, okay? And recently I used it to melt a napkin onto a candle. And what do you think happened? That wax was getting all over this piece of parchment paper, okay? I didn't rub 2 brain cells together to think, oh, we need to trash that. Instead, I just grabbed it and I started doing the iron-on method. Well, right here, I'm like, something smells funny, right? And I noticed there was like some black developing underneath. See me looking? I'm like, what is going on, right? Smells funny. What is this? I feel like all the things are happening to tell me a fire is about to take place. Oh, but I carried on because I've done this like 100 times and it's not normal that tissue paper bleeds. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't happen like this. What is going on? And then I see that the wax is burning. I look at the bottom. It's all black. It's all burning. And guess what? The iron is starting to burn and catch fire. What is going on? What is that? It's on fire. Fire. Let me turn this camera off. So apparently, I don't know. There's definitely... I know. The candle, the wax, I'm burning. Oh my gosh, this has to be what's on the bottom of this. It's like crusty bits or something. Oh my gosh. Let me clean this off. People, don't try this at home, okay? Listen, do not try this at home. Make sure you use fresh parchment paper. And I could not find my parchment paper roll, so I just basically took the iron and stamped the rest of this piece. I was so nervous because I had wax from moving this paper all around it. So I was just stamping the iron, holding my breath, like, please. I got it on the piece. Okay. And then when I was done, I took my sandpaper and I trimmed it all off. Now that crafting trauma is over, we're going to need something to create that hanger aspect of our earring jewelry holder. I'm using one of these Dollar Tree wire baskets. It's perfect for this piece, and I just trimmed this down to size. Then I brought on in the stapler to attach this onto the back. For all the struggle, this piece was absolutely worth it. My daughter is going to love it. If you enjoyed these upcycles, check out this video right here for more upcycling inspiration. And as always, people, thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. And until next time, bye!